You feel it. The emptiness after a conversation, a fatigue that can't be explained by lack of sleep, as if invisible tentacles have penetrated the very core of your being and drained your life force. They walk among us, masters of disguise, skillfully hiding their true nature behind a facade of charm, weakness, or even authority. In the modern world, they are called energy vampires. But what if this isn't just a trendy metaphor, but a reflection of deep psychological processes described decades ago? Carl Gustav Jung, a genius who delved into the darkest corners of the human psyche, didn't speak directly of vampires. But his teachings on the shadow, on unconscious projections, on the eternal struggle for the integrity of the personality, this is the key. The key to understanding how some people unconsciously, and sometimes intentionally, feed on the life energy of others. And what's most frightening, how we ourselves unknowingly grant them access to our inner source. Forget garlic and silver bullets. True protection is knowledge, knowledge of their tactics, their deep-seated motives, but above all, knowledge of oneself. For, as Jung taught, what we do not make conscious in ourselves, we encounter externally as fate, or, in our case, as a devourer of our energy. Today, we will unmask them. We will reveal 5 fundamental personality types whose presence drains us, not to simply brand them, but to understand, drawing on Jung's wisdom, how to protect ourselves, not temporarily, but once and for all, through a profound inner transformation that will make you invulnerable to their dark influence. 5 types of those who steal your essence. First, the eternal victim, maestro of guilt and helplessness. Second, the all-knowing critic, executioner of your self-esteem. Third, the consuming narcissist, insatiable black hole of admiration. Fourth, the drama magnet, generator of chaos and perpetual anxiety. Fifth, the subtle manipulator, puppeteer of invisible strings. The descent into the abyss begins, and only by passing through it will we find the light of true strength. First type, the eternal victim, maestro of guilt and helplessness. Their life is a saga of suffering, an endless opera of injustice where they are the main, tragic heroes. Every conversation with them is an immersion into the world of their troubles, where you unwittingly become a listener, subtly instilled with a sense of responsibility for their condition. They masterfully induce guilt. Their helplessness is their weapon. You leave their company with a heavy heart and an inexplicable fatigue, as if part of your soul has been sacrificed on the altar of their unending sorrows. Carl Jung would point out that behind the mask of the eternal victim often lies a deeply ingrained complex, perhaps an abandonment complex, or a fear of one's own strength and responsibility. This is a personality whose shadow, containing unexpressed aggression, healthy assertiveness, and the capacity for independence, remains unintegrated, frightening. Instead, they regress to the archetype of the eternal child in its most passive and dependent manifestation, unconsciously believing that only through weakness and suffering can they receive the attention and care they so desperately crave. Their ego is weak, incapable of confronting reality, and so they project blame for their failures onto others or onto bad luck. The path of individuation, the path to achieving a whole self, is blocked for them by a wall of their own fears and the secondary gains from the role of the sufferer. The energy-draining mechanism. The eternal victim connects to your energy field through your compassion and sense of duty. Their complaints activate the savior or caring mother-father archetype in you. You rush to help, offer solutions, spend hours listening, become emotionally involved. But their problems, like the Hydra's head, mean that for every one you cut off, 2 new ones appear. Because their unconscious goal is not to solve the problem, but the very process of gaining attention through suffering. Your energy flows into this bottomless pit of futile efforts, leaving you with guilt for insufficient help and deep disappointment. Why we are vulnerable to this type? Our susceptibility to the eternal victim's influence is a mirror of our own internal processes. Jung would say that we are hooked by what resonates with our unconscious aspects. Hypertrophied savior archetype. If we carry a deep-seated belief that our value is determined by our ability to help others, we become an ideal target. This may be linked to our own shadow, where the need to be needed at any cost is hidden. Non-acceptance of our own weakness. Paradoxically, by rescuing the victim, we may be unconsciously avoiding confronting our own vulnerability, projecting it outward. Blurred psychological boundaries. An inability to say no, fear of offending or appearing bad, makes us defenseless against their passive aggression. Unconscious guilt. If we have deep, unresolved feelings of guilt, perhaps stemming from childhood, the victim intuitively finds this sore spot and presses on it. The path to protection through self-knowledge and individuation. True protection, as Jung taught, grows from within. Awareness and integration of your savior. Ask yourself, why do I strive so much to save? Whose role am I playing? Acknowledge that you are not omnipotent and are not obliged to solve others' problems, especially if the person is not ready for change themselves. Working with the shadow. Accept your dark side, the right to healthy selfishness, to fatigue, to refusal. This doesn't make you callous, it makes you whole. Strengthening the ego and boundaries. Jung emphasized the role of a strong ego in the ability to resist external influences. Learn to clearly define your boundaries. I sympathize with you, but I cannot solve this problem for you. I have X minutes to talk. Distinguishing empathy from fusion. Sympathize. Yes. Allowing others' problems to consume you. No. Maintain an internal distance. Moving along the path of individuation. The more connected you are to yourself, your true center, the less susceptible you are to manipulation, and the clearer you see others' games. You begin to value your energy and direct it towards your own development. The eternal victim feeds on your guilt and your need to save. Protection lies in recognizing your motives, strengthening your boundaries, and accepting that everyone is responsible for their own life and their path to wholeness. Second type, the all-knowing critic, executioner of your self-esteem. This individual seems to possess infallible knowledge about everything and everyone, and their main mission is to point out your mistakes, shortcomings, and imperfections. Every word, action, or even thought of yours is subjected to immediate analysis and, as a rule, condemnation. Unsolicited advice, caustic sarcasm, devaluing remarks. Their arsenal is limitless. In their presence, your confidence evaporates, creative impulses fade, and energy is spent on futile attempts to justify yourself or on an internal struggle with the seeds of doubt they have sown. Jung would see in the all-knowing critic a personality desperately defending their extremely fragile ego. Their criticism is not a sign of strength, but a cry of inner weakness, projection of their own shadow. In their shadow, the critic hides deep insecurity, fear of inadequacy, envy of others' successes. These qualities, unbearable to themselves, they project onto others, fiercely attacking them in others, so as not to see them in themselves. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, Jung reminded. Ego inflation as compensation. To hide the gaping hole of an inferiority complex, the critic's ego inflates to the size of an all-knowing guru. They must always be right, always superior, always smarter. This is an illusion of control over a world that actually frightens them. Suppressed feeling function. Often, such people are dominated by thinking in its coldest, most analytical aspect, while the feeling function, responsible for empathy, warmth, connection with others, remains undeveloped or suppressed. They do not feel the pain their words cause. Distorted sage, senex, archetype. Instead of bringing the light of knowledge and support, they become carriers of the shadow aspect of this archetype, rigidity, dogmatism, and condemnation. The energy-draining mechanism. The critic drains your energy by systematically destroying your self-esteem and self-belief. Activation of your inner critic. Their words are fuel to the fire of your own doubts. If you have a strict inner censor, the external critic becomes its powerful ally. Forced defense. You expend a colossal amount of psychic energy trying to defend your point of view, prove your competence, fend off attacks. This struggle is always a losing one, as the critic's goal is not truth, but self-affirmation at your expense. Paralysis of initiative. Under a barrage of criticism, the desire to create, risk, try new things fades. The fear of error and condemnation becomes your jailer. emotional poisoning. Resentment, anger, shame, feelings of worthlessness. These toxic emotions caused by criticism require enormous resources for processing and recovery. Why we are vulnerable to this type? Our reaction to the critic is a litmus test of our relationship with ourselves. Unstable self-esteem. If our confidence depends on external approval, the critic gains unlimited power. Their words fall on the fertile ground of our own doubts. Unintegrated shadow and perfectionism. If we do not accept our right to make mistakes, if we strive for an unattainable ideal, then any criticism is perceived as a catastrophe, as confirmation of our badness. Fear of conflict and inability to defend boundaries. If we are afraid to object, to stop the flow of devaluation, we become passive recipients of others' aggression. Projection of authority. Sometimes we may unconsciously endow the critic with real authority, especially if they remind us of significant figures from the past, for example, critical parents. The path to protection through self-knowledge and individuation. True protection from the critic is the cultivation of inner immunity. Dialogue with the inner critic. Recognize and personify your inner critic. Understand its motives, often a distorted desire to protect you from pain. Learn to separate its voice from the voice of your true self, accepting your shadow in its entirety. Acknowledge that you are a living person, not an ideal. You have the right to make mistakes, to not know, to be imperfect. Once you accept this, external criticism loses its venomous power. Jung said, "I would rather be whole than good." Cultivating self-worth from within. Your worth is not determined by others' judgments. Seek support in your achievements, talents, values, in your unique individuality. Connection with the self provides unshakable confidence, developing assertiveness. Learn to calmly, firmly, but without aggression, stop unconstructive criticism. I appreciate your opinion, but I will do it my way. I am uncomfortable when you speak in that tone. I do not need an assessment of this aspect of my life. Depersonalizing criticism. Remember that the critic's words are primarily a reflection of their own inner world, their projections and complexes. Do not take it personally. Imagine their words flying past, not touching you. The all-knowing critic seeks to assert themselves at the expense of your self-esteem. Protection lies in developing an unshakable inner foundation, accepting your imperfection, and learning to disarm criticism by seeing it as a reflection of others' problems, not yours. Third type, the consuming narcissist, insatiable black hole of admiration. Now we encounter a figure whose radiance can blind, and whose attraction can be fatally dangerous to your energy. This is the consuming narcissist. They are the sun of their own universe, and everyone else is merely a planet orbiting them, obligated to reflect their light and supply fuel for their magnificence. Every conversation, every event invariably revolves around their persona. In their presence, you feel like nothing more than a function, a mirror, obligated to endlessly confirm their exceptionalism. Energy drains into this black hole of admiration, leaving you depleted and invisible. A Jungian view of narcissism is much deeper than simple self-admiration. It is the tragedy of a personality that has not found a connection with its true self. Ego inflation and inner emptiness. Behind the narcissist's facade of grandiosity and self-confidence lies a bottomless abyss of inner emptiness and desperate insecurity. Their ego is not just strong, it is inflated, bloated with fantasies of their own omnipotence and uniqueness to compensate for the lack of a genuine sense of I. Empathy deficit. The narcissist is incapable of true empathy. Other people are either narcissistic extensions, those who reflect their greatness and serve them, or objects for devaluation, those who threaten their fragile self-perception. Eternal search for narcissistic supply. Admiration, flattery, attention, submission. This is the narcissistic fuel they vitally need to maintain the illusion of their significance. Without it, they fall into an agonizing experience of their own worthlessness. Active projection of the shadow. All qualities unacceptable to themselves. Envy, weakness, greed, inadequacy. The narcissist fiercely projects onto others, especially those who become close to them. This allows them to maintain their flawless image. The puer, puella, eternal youth, archetype in its shadow aspect. Often, narcissistic traits are associated with being stuck in the archetype of eternal youth, with an unwillingness to take on adult responsibilities and an infantile demand that the world revolve around them. The energy-draining mechanism. The narcissist depletes you by turning you into a source of uninterrupted supply for their ego. Monopolization of psychological space. They fill all the airtime. Your thoughts, feelings, needs are pushed to the background or completely ignored. Cycles of idealization and devaluation. Initially, they may place you on a pedestal, seeing you as a perfect reflection or source of supply. But as soon as you stop meeting their expectations or show your own individuality, cruel devaluation follows. These emotional roller coasters are exhausting. Demand for constant validation. You must continuously prove your loyalty, admiration, usefulness. This is emotionally and intellectually draining. Manipulation and gaslighting. To maintain control and their flawless image, the narcissist does not shy away from manipulation, distortion of facts, instilling in you a sense of guilt or doubt in your own sanity. Gaslighting. You begin to lose your grip on reality. Emotional exploitation. Your feelings are used for their needs, your sympathy when they are down, and they will always find a reason for drama. Your joy, which they will appropriate if it is connected to them. Why we are vulnerable to this type. Our willingness to become a donor for the narcissist often signals our own unresolved internal issues. Low self-esteem and search for approval. If we do not feel our own worth, the initial idealization by the narcissist can be incredibly attractive. We buy into their attention, tendency towards the echo role. If we are used to adapting, being convenient, not stating our needs, we easily become a perfect reflection for the narcissist, losing ourselves in the process. This may be related to a suppressed anima in men or animus in women, i.e., unintegrated aspects of one's own soul. Codependent patterns. A deep need to be needed, to save, to fix another person, even at the cost of one's own well-being. Unhealed childhood traumas. If we lacked recognition, love, attention in childhood, we might unconsciously try to get it from the narcissist, falling into the trap of repeating a traumatic experience. Idealization and projection of anima animus. The narcissist often masterfully creates an image that corresponds to our deep unconscious expectations of an ideal partner or friend. We fall in love not with a real person, but with our projection. The path to protection through self-knowledge and individuation. Protection from the narcissist is the path to achieving psychological sovereignty, cultivating healthy narcissism, genuine self-love. Jung spoke of the importance of self-love as the basis of mental health. This is not selfishness, but acceptance of oneself in all one's fullness, with light and shadow. When you truly value yourself, you do not need external validation from the narcissist. Strengthening the connection with the self. Individuation is the path to oneself, the inner center that is the source of meaning, value, and strength. The stronger this connection, the less susceptible you are to manipulation and dependent on external evaluations. Reclaiming projections. Realize what dreams, ideals, unfulfilled needs you projected onto the narcissist. Take them back and seek their fulfillment in healthy ways. Establishing ironclad boundaries. Normal compromises do not work with a narcissist. Often, the only way to protect yourself is to establish very clear, impenetrable boundaries, up to and including complete cessation of contact, the gray rock, or no contact strategy. This is an act of self-preservation, working with your own shadow. Recognize and integrate those aspects of yourself that make you vulnerable, for example, fear of loneliness, the need to please, inability to say no, developing critical thinking and trusting your intuition. Learn to recognize manipulation and not doubt your perception of reality, even if the narcissist tries to convince you otherwise. The consuming narcissist sees you only as a means to maintain their fragile ego. Protection is the construction of an impregnable inner fortress based on self-love, connection with the self, and the ability to ruthlessly sever toxic ties. Fourth type. The drama magnet, generator of chaos and perpetual anxiety. Around this person, Passions always boil, crises occur, conflicts flare up. They seem to attract or create drama, living in a state of permanent chaos and emotional turbulence. Communicating with a drama magnet is like a roller coaster ride without seatbelts, exciting for them, but exhausting and anxiety-provoking for you. Your energy is spent trying to calm the storm, resolve another unsolvable conflict, or simply cope with the flood of negative emotions they generously pour onto you. From a Jungian perspective, the drama magnet is a personality who unconsciously uses drama to avoid inner emptiness or to act out unresolved internal conflicts. Unconscious shadow. In such a person's shadow may be hidden boredom, fear of a mundane life, an inability for deep introspection. Drama becomes a way to feel alive, significant, even if it's life on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Need for attention and stimulation. Chaos and crises are guaranteed to attract the attention of others. For the drama magnet, negative attention is often better than none at all. Strong emotions, even negative ones, serve as a powerful stimulant. Projection of inner chaos. A person unable to cope with their inner disorder, the chaos of thoughts and feelings, may unconsciously create chaos externally. External drama becomes a reflection and a way to act out internal tension. Stuck in the hero, warrior archetype in its destructive aspect. Instead of directing energy towards constructive achievements, the drama magnet constantly seeks battles and enemies, often creating them out of thin air. Inability for mature emotional processing. Instead of experiencing and integrating their feelings, they vent them in the form of dramatic scenes involving others. The energy-draining mechanism. The drama magnet exhausts you by drawing you into their emotional vortex. Emotional contagion. The strong emotions, anxiety, anger, fear, despair, isluchiamia, drama magnet, are contagious. You unwittingly begin to experience them along with him. Forced participation in the show. You might be made a listener, an arbiter, a savior, a scapegoat. Roles may change, but the essence is the same. You become an actor in their drama. Constant tension and expectation of an explosion. Life next to a drama magnet is life on a powder keg. You are constantly in a state of high alert, which exhausts the nervous system. Distraction from your own affairs and goals. Others' dramas consume your time and attention, leaving no resources for your own life. Feeling of helplessness. No matter how hard you try to help or calm them, the drama doesn't stop because the drama magnet themselves needs it. This generates frustration and a sense of futility. Why we are vulnerable to this type, Jungian view. Our involvement in others' dramas often reflects our own hidden needs or unresolved conflicts, our own need for thrills or avoidance of boredom. If our own life seems bland, someone else's drama can unconsciously attract us as a source of stimulation. Savior or peacemaker archetype. The desire to settle a conflict, to help, to restore order, can make us repeatedly get involved in others' battles. Weak boundaries and fear of rejection. Inability to say, stop, this is your drama, I don't want to participate in it, due to fear of offending or being rejected. Projection of our own suppressed emotionality. If we ourselves suppress our strong feelings, the drama magnet's turbulent manifestations can be both frightening and fascinating, giving us an indirect outlet for our own emotions. Unconscious attraction to familiar patterns. If we grew up in a chaotic or dramatic family environment, the drama magnet's behavior might feel normal or even familiarly exciting. The path to protection through self-knowledge and individuation. Liberation from the drama magnet's influence requires developing inner calm and clear boundaries. Awareness of your hooks. Understand what exactly in the drama magnet's behavior hooks you. Your need to save? Your craving for strong emotions? Your inability to tolerate others' discomfort. Developing emotional self-regulation. Learn to manage your emotions and not let others' affect overwhelm you. Mindfulness practices can be very helpful here. Establishing impenetrable emotional boundaries. You are not obliged to be a container for others' negative emotions. Learn not to get involved. Phrases: I understand you're upset, but I can't discuss this right now. I will not participate in this conflict. Renouncing the role of savior or problem solver. Acknowledge that you cannot and should not solve all of others' problems, or put out all their fires. Everyone is responsible for their own inner world. Filling your own life with meaning and interest. The more meaningful and calm your own life is, the less attractive others' chaos will be. Focus on your goals and your path of individuation. Physical distancing, if necessary. If verbal boundaries don't help, sometimes the only way out is to reduce or completely cease communication with a chronic drama magnet. The drama magnet feeds on your involvement in their chaos and your emotional reactions. Protection lies in developing inner calm, the ability not to give in to provocations, and establishing clear boundaries that separate your world from their perpetual storm. Fifth type, the subtle manipulator, puppeteer of invisible strings. The last, but perhaps the most insidious of our vampires, is the subtle manipulator, the puppeteer of invisible strings. They operate not through overt aggression or pity, but subtly, pulling the invisible strings of your feelings, desires, and weaknesses. After interacting with them, you might feel confused, as if you've done something against your will, or experience a vague unease, not fully understanding what happened. Their weapons are hints, omissions, playing on guilt or duty, flattery behind which a request is hidden. Energy drains away unnoticed while you dance to their invisible tune. Jung would view manipulative behavior as a manifestation of deeply hidden complexes and an unintegrated shadow, where a thirst for power and control resides, often stemming from a sense of one's own vulnerability. Shadowy thirst for control. The manipulator fears direct confrontation and open expression of their needs, as this makes them vulnerable. Therefore, they choose roundabout ways, seeking to control situations and other people through hidden methods. Undeveloped ethical function. Often, such individuals have an insufficiently developed feeling function in its ethical aspect, which allows them to use other people as means to achieve their goals without experiencing much remorse. Projection of their own cunning and dishonesty. They may suspect others of manipulation, projecting their own shadow qualities onto them. The trickster archetype in its negative aspect. The manipulator may use intelligence and charm not for creation, but for deception and misleading, for their own benefit. Jung noted that the trickster is an ambivalent figure, and its shadow manifestations can be very destructive. Fear of rejection and indirect expression of needs. The inability or fear to directly state their desires forces them to resort to complex games and intrigues. The energy-draining mechanism. The subtle manipulator exhausts by confusing you and making you act in their interests, creating cognitive dissonance. Their words and actions may diverge, causing you confusion and doubts about your own perception. Playing on feelings of guilt, duty, pity, they masterfully find your sore spots and press on them to get their way. Indirect requests and suggestions. You may not even realize you are being manipulated until you find yourself doing something you didn't want to do. Emotional exhaustion from trying to decipher them. You spend a lot of energy trying to understand their true motives, the hidden meanings of their words. Loss of autonomy and sense of control over your life. Gradually, you may feel that your decisions and actions are increasingly determined by their influence. Why we are vulnerable to this type. Our susceptibility to manipulation is also rooted in our internal characteristics: naivety and excessive trust, unwillingness to see the bad in people, idealization, weak personal boundaries, and inability to say no, especially if the manipulation is disguised by flattery or appeals to your best feelings. Our own unintegrated shadow desires, for example, thirst for approval, fear of loneliness. The manipulator can subtly play on these desires, promising their satisfaction in exchange for concessions. Conflict phobia. The desire to avoid any conflict can make us give in to the manipulator just to maintain an appearance of peace. Insufficient connection with our intuition. Intuition often sends the first warning signals when encountering manipulation, but if we are not used to trusting it, we ignore these signals. The path to protection through self-knowledge and individuation. Protection from the subtle manipulator requires sharpening your internal lie detector and strengthening your integrity, developing awareness and self-reflection. Learn to track your feelings and reactions in communication. If you feel discomfort, confusion, pressure, it's a signal. Until you make the unconscious conscious, It will direct your life and you will call it fate, Jung said. Trusting your intuition. Your unconscious often picks up non-verbal cues and inconsistencies much faster than your conscious mind. Listen to your gut feeling. Strengthening personal boundaries and the right to say no. You are not obliged to explain or justify your refusal. A simple and firm no is your protection. Awareness of your weak spots. Honestly admit to yourself what hooks you are most easily caught on: guilt, flattery, fear, etc., and work on these vulnerabilities. Practicing assertive behavior. Learn to directly state your needs and expectations without resorting to hints and not allowing others to do so with you. Don't be afraid to call a spade a spade. If you feel manipulated, you can, if you consider it safe and appropriate. Say so directly. I feel like you're trying to manipulate me. I feel pressure from you. Sometimes this disarms the manipulator. The subtle manipulator drains energy by entangling you in the web of their hidden motives and desires. Protection lies in developing crystal clarity of mind, trusting your intuition, unshakable personal boundaries, and the courage to call things by their proper names. We have walked through a gallery of shadows, examining 5 main types of personalities whose interaction can feel like energy vampirism. But as Carl Jung taught, the real problem, and therefore the real solution, lies not so much in the external world as in our internal landscape. These vampires are not mystical creatures of the night, but people with deep internal conflicts, unintegrated shadows, and an incomplete process of individuation, who unconsciously project their problems onto us. Their power over us is directly proportional to our unawareness of our own vulnerabilities, our own shadows and projections. Meeting with oneself is one of the most unpleasant experiences, Jung warned, but it is this path that leads to true freedom and strength. Protection once and for all is not a set of external techniques or protective amulets. It is deep, sometimes painful, but always transformative work on oneself. Integration of one's own shadow. Accepting one's dark, rejected aspects makes us whole and less vulnerable to others' projections. Awareness and reclamation of one's projections. Understanding what expectations, fears, or ideals we project onto others frees us from illusions. Strengthening a healthy ego and establishing clear boundaries. The ability to say no, protect one's space, separate oneself from others' problems. Moving along the path of individuation. Striving for one's true self, for the unfolding of one's unique potential, makes us less dependent on external influences and evaluations. When we light the lamp of consciousness in the dark corners of our soul, we not only heal ourselves but also become invulnerable to those who try to feed on our energy due to their own inner darkness. True strength is wholeness. And now I would like to turn to you. Which of these 5 types of energy vampires do you encounter most often in your life? Which Jungian ideas from today's deep dive seemed most resonant or useful for protecting your energy and your inner world? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's continue this important discussion together. Remember, the path to self-knowledge is the most exciting and most important journey in life. It requires courage, but the reward is genuine freedom and unshakable inner strength. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new deep dives into the mysteries of the human psyche. If this video was useful for you and made you think, please give it a like. It will help other seekers find it. Thank you for being with us on this journey. Protect your energy and walk the path of your individuation. Until next time.